here and there, but it's mostly because it can take advantage of the Sun and Moon badge, a tool card which we haven't seen much of, but it denies the opponent from using supporter cards on your Pokemon that have Sun and Moon badge attached. So essentially it says no to boss's orders. That's the key thing. You can have a damaged Umbreon on your bench with a Sun and Moon badge. That is completely safe from the opponent who cannot boss's orders you up. This means that you can get 2 damaged Umbreon VMAXs and you Cheryl them both on the same turn, because Sander can't Cheryl every single turn of the game. He needs to draw cards and move out of his Umbreons via Bird Keeper on off turns. So that's the loop he's going for here.
And it is a very interesting deck. It's something a little bit different. It is something we've not seen on stream today. And I think we're in round 8. We need something a little bit different. It does seem like we are ready to go here, but we've not seen... No, I think we have got... Here we go. There's the fist bump. Now we get the cards. And we've got the Evil Tail from Celebrations, and we got ourselves a Sobble.
Yeah, he's up against Niels, who is playing a traditional Arceus Inteleon deck here. There's not many tricks up his sleeve, to be honest. It seems to be a pretty straightforward list. It's playing a combination of Dark Energy, well, actually all Dark Energy, as well as those double turbos and whatnot. As you can see, Sander actually is playing a number of double turbos and single strike energy, so he does have the option to actually attack with Umbreon if needed, if he wants to get through some annoying Pokemon. Maybe if someone loads up energy onto a Mew VMAX, for example, you can actually just knock them out. Potentially they're not expecting it in certain instances, so yeah, a very interesting take on this deck list, no doubt. And Sander is going to have his opening search of the game here. He plays traditionally a lot of one-ofs, and this time is no different. A lot of one-of setup Pokemon here and there, lots of individual supporter cards as well, so this might take a minute.
It might take a minute. And actually, one card that was in the prizes was his Starly. Just a one-off Starly, but that's the one, you know, we know Bird Keeper's important for switching in and out. And Starly, you can attack for free if you've used Bird Keeper, and it lets you search out any 2 cards in your deck. And actually, early game especially, that one's pretty nice.
Yeah, it was a keen eye of you to spot that from the prizes, but that's exactly what it goes for with its attack, to search out any 2 cards. And that is sometimes a really good early game option that Sander can go for. One of his other options is simply sitting behind the Gormandized Snorlax, which he's gone ahead and searched out here. It's a fantastic basic Pokemon that can just sort of throw itself into the active position, get you some additional value. And as always, Sander sticks to the certain principle of, I need to draw cards first. That's always like the key element of his deck. And we are seeing a double turbo energy to retreat into that Snorlax so he can begin that Gormandized chain here.
Absolutely. Draws 4 cards. Snorlax is a card, it always looked good. It came out in Vivid Voltage. It always looked like a really nice card. You can draw lots of cards with it, and it just never saw a huge amount of play. But with these less traditional draw engines we've moved into lately, it's actually something we're seeing more and more often. And you know, often as a 1 or 2 of just in the early game, just in case. And it's putting in a lot of work in a lot of decks.
And Niels here, really just having to figure out what Sander's playing. That's always the first hurdle in Game 1. You're almost doing a reconnaissance mission whilst trying to win the game at the same time. It's not an easy task. And his turn actually wasn't fantastic. He's just going to go ahead, use a Dark Energy attachment to keep calling. It gets the Sobbles out, of course, but no Arceus in sight just yet. So a pretty slow start. And that's good news for Sander, because every turn that you gain with this deck, you're just accumulating more and more resources. You can already see he's peeping cards like Bird Keeper, peeping cards like Capture Energy, so he can start developing his board that little bit more.
Absolutely, you know. Sander, he gets a bit of an award here because it's the one deck so far on the stream that we've had to really get the deck list up and kind of study the deck to be right. What is the actual plan here? What are the weird one-offs? Oh, Starly, what does Starly do again?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all built around that Sun and Moon badge. Well, of course it is. Why would it not be?
Of course. Remember that Sun and Moon badge that we all have in our bulk? Yeah, Sander actually took it out of the bulk, and yeah, he's styling on us right now. We're going to see a Capture Energy early on with that Yveltal here. He could start establishing something like the Umbreon. He doesn't really know what he's up against just yet. He may have a good idea, but a Dark Energy on a Sobble could be, you know, something like the Urshifu deck, for example. So we may see what's going on. One thing he may want to go for, as we already know he has a Jolteon in his hand, is Eevee. He is playing that Vivid Voltage Jolteon to turn off Shady Dealings, and that is a big part of Niels' engine.
Absolutely, I was going to make the same point there. It's one of those cards we saw all of the Generation 1, you know, your Flareon, your Jolteon, your Vaporeon. We saw them all in Vivid Voltage, and they turn off the abilities of the Pokemon they hit for weakness. So Jolteon here turns off the abilities of water Pokemon, like Drizzile and Inteleon.
Oh,
The other Inteleon.
Yeah, the entire engine of Niels. And straight away, we are going to see that Umbreon V. And there's a quick reading of the Sun and Moon badge. That is going to be a tricky one for him because this is the entire build-around for Sander. And we are going to see a Bruno here. It's only getting 4 cards, not sounding great, but he can always end his turn on a Gormandize here. So already he just wants to see a few more cards, and he can always fill his hand back up.
Absolutely, that's always a huge advantage. You don't often see top players like Niels in round 8 having to read their opponent's cards just to remind. It's not a card he's never seen, but it's another one of those who like, I remember that. What does it do again?
Yeah, it's hazy. It's vague. You know it was a card that was printed, but yeah, just familiarize yourself. Why not? It's information that's available to both. And Sander is going to get an additional 4 cards here. Really, all he wants to get is maybe like another Umbreon down as quickly as possible, because as soon as you get both of these Umbreon Vs into play and evolve them up into VMAXs, they're pretty much safe. One thing about the Arceus V-Star is its damage cap isn't particularly high here, and we are actually going to see a quick ball, so this is a really good turn from Sander, especially because he can refill his hand so nicely with that Snorlax.
Absolutely, and like we've seen with Pokemon like Whimsicott and Sylveon, it's not a metal weakness, but it's a grass weakness. And sure, Leafeon VMAX was quite popular for a bit of a time, but grass is not really a relevant type right now. Nobody's really playing grass Pokemon, so it's not just that you can, tank a couple of hits and that you can't be brought into the active by something like Boss's Orders, Heal with Cheryl, etc. It's the fact that, really, they're going to one-hit KO you if they're hitting you a grass weakness. Which just nobody's doing.
Who's doing that? Yeah, I think Sander's the only person using a grass attacker, and that's Eldegoss V. So he's pretty happy with that. We are going to see the EV get established here from the quick ball. As we've both mentioned, Jolteon can be a huge pain in the neck for Niels' Inteleon engine. You really deny a lot of the draw power of the deck. All the tutoring that you get from Shady Dealings could get denied later down the line, as Sander can simply refill his hand with a Gormandize. He's got a lot of value from that Snorlax already.
And the rare, amazing rare. Not cards we tend to see very much. There was one for each type of Pokemon. Jirachi was our meta one, and it actually comes out and has a little bit of value here. Lets you, search a little bit, gives you a little bit of extra consistency. So it's nice to see them.
Yeah, I think it's actually a big deal in his deck, to be honest, because a lot of the time you're doing like Bird Keeper plays, and you may as well just go into a Dreamy Revelation and see an additional card here and there. That's also why he plays Pyukumuku in his list, to make sure that he's continuing that chain of Eldegoss looping when he needs to. So some really important includes, surprisingly enough. Sander always finds a way with these cards, as we're going to see a Drizzle here.
And an Avery.
Avery straight out the gate. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Sander might just get rid of the Yveltal even. It was just what he happened to start with. It wasn't a Pokemon that he searched out, for example. And Captain G is okay, but it's not really hurting his setup, and Sander immediately agrees. He says, Yveltal is kind of nice. There's special energies, of course, around in the Arceus player's deck, but in general, Sander just wants to get double VMAX established with that Umbreon and just get into that loop with the Cheryl here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the way to go here. We see Niels use Noctua Ball, getting rid of a Raihan and a Manaphy. Manaphy's not going to help you very much in this game. And Raihan activates after a KO, and this is not the kind of deck which is going to be taking KOs.
Not for a while, if ever. Yeah, that is. It's possible for Sander, but he's already got rid of a couple of his special energy, the single strike energy. Not to say that he can't recover them, because I think he is playing the Roseanne's backup in his deck. He absolutely is, that can get back energy cards, including special energy. So it's not out of the question. But yeah, for a long time, that's not going to be on Sander's agenda.
No. So we do see Niels here bringing out a level ball. Going to be looking for, shockingly, a Drizzle.
Get him in while you can, because you've seen an Eevee, right? You may as well get as much value as possible.
Yeah, and do you make the connection there? Do you assume your opponent's playing a Jolteon?
I think you have to. Why else would there be an Eevee in play, right?
And he searched for it. He specifically used the quick ball to go for the Eevee. So I think if you're playing this, you've got to remember that Jolteon it's sneaky good, and it helps out a lot. It turns off Octillery, the Rapid Strike we've seen quite a lot. But it's still not a card that most people make room for in their decks.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it requires a lot of pieces. It's not only the Jolteon that has to come in play, you also have to get that memory capsule attached, and it can easily be Boss's Orders up just for a KO, and then things get even more awkward for you. So we are seeing the retreat into the Arceus V here that was found, so we can see a Trinity Charge just to get some energy circulating. It can really help you out a little bit against some Crushing Hammers, so we may even see a fourth energy come onto the Arceus V here. I actually really like this choice from Niels, because he doesn't really know what Sander's capable of, what's in his range. there's normally so many individual one-offs, and when you know that Sander isn't taking prize cards, he's normally playing some energy denial in his deck.
Absolutely. I mean, generally speaking, especially recently, Sanders likes to play those decks that you don't like to play against.
Absolutely.
They're very interesting to watch. They're very creative. They make for excellent stories. But generally, the person sitting down opposite is not having their best game of Pokemon. Because these are decks that are designed to frustrate you. They are decks that are designed to tank hits and then heal, or to get rid of your energy, or to lock you out of specific resources that you need to win. These are the kind of decks that Sander absolutely specializes in. And this deck, like we said, it's, well, you come hit my Umbreon, and then hit my other Umbreon, and then I'll heal them, and we'll just be exactly where we were a minute ago, except I am not going to deck out, and you probably will.
Yeah, exactly. Sander is not counting prizes, he's counting cards remaining in the deck. That's typically what his win condition is going to be. He can deal damage, of course, with Eldegoss just periodically throughout the game here, but is not his primary win condition at all. We are going to see a capture energy for a second Snorlax here, just expecting the active to get knocked out at the end of this turn. But it seems like he's pretty happy, all things considered. And I have to imagine that Sander has tested against Arceus quite a lot. It's something that he was a little bit concerned about with his Zoroark approach from Liverpool. He didn't really fancy his Arceus matchup as much as this new build of his deck.
No, absolutely. And, Sander had a great run in Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
Won a lot of games, did very, very well. So if you're changing to a different but similar kind of deck, it's got to be because you've got a lot more faith in it. Because the deck that Sander played in Liverpool was not a bad deck. He did not have a bad tournament. It went very well. What he's basically just gone and done is said, well, I can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also see Boss's Orders. This may just be thrown out just to be a -1 essentially from his hand, and that's potentially why you're also seeing a Sun and Moon badge come down onto the Snorlax here. Doesn't have any effect other than -1, so he can draw an extra card from the Gourmandise here, but he's pretty much got everything he needs. The Umbreons come down accompanied by the tool, which is the most important thing here, so that he cannot be simply gusted up, even with things like Starbirth and any combination of cards. As long as Niels is not playing any tool disruption, these Umbreons are just stuck on the bench as long as he wants.
Yeah, and I mean, is he playing any tool disruption? I didn't see any in his list when I looked earlier. So, those tools are absolutely going to stay out. We do see Arceus V-Star coming down. So it looks like we are going to see that Starbirth, that lovely ability that lets you search for any 2 cards. That's not being turned off because it's weird. We see so much disruption in the format. Path to the Peak, such a big card for so many players. And Sander's like, I don't need it.
No, he'll find an alternate win condition against Mew by the looks of things. I think he probably actually does just attack against Mew because you can just sit and load up an Umbreon on the bench with the Sun and Moon badge and offer up 1 prize Pokemon, and then you can try and do some disruptive plays all in one go after you've removed some fusion energy from play against the Mew with the likes of that Yveltal that we saw earlier. It means that the Umbreon essentially can't be KO'd. So it's a really solid game plan as we are seeing a quick shooting coming out. This is one way that Niels can try and threaten multiple prize turns, which is going to be important for him if he is going to claw back in this game. We're also going to see the retreat into his Arceus V-Star now, and he can begin to put the pressure on with at least attacking with the Trinity Nova here.
Yeah, getting that KO on the Snorlax, going up by a prize. And that's the thing against a deck like Sanders. You've just got to take what you can get. It's not always ideal. There are 4 non-Umbreon prizes on the board. So in theory, if you can KO an Umbreon, you can take out those other prizes. And, that could be a route to victory. And certainly trying to take out one of those Umbreons sooner rather than later has got to be a priority.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that you can't really target too easily. So we actually see the Tower of Darkness coming down for Sander. It's actually, again, another big card in the deck. It allows you to just dig deeper, and he does actually play a good number of single strike cards, the Flannery being one of them that was just pitched there for an additional 2. Sander is always someone that likes to just dig as deep into his deck as possible. He wants to sit with a hand that's essentially a library. He just wants to have everything accessible to him. And this is one of the ways that he's able to do it, thanks to that tower. And we are going to see a quick ball now, getting rid of a Marnie. I wonder if he's going to start electing to get Eldegoss towards the hand here, because I think that's the next step for him, just starting to use that float-up attack from the Eldegoss.
Absolutely. I mean, Eldegoss works 2 ways brilliantly here. I mean, when you play it down, it's got that ability. It gets a supporter card from your discard pile back into your hand. But then it's got an attack which puts it back into your hand. So you can keep playing it down, and every time you play it down, you get a supporter card, and then you just keep going, and you're getting a supporter card recovered every turn. And you're throwing up those Umbreon, letting them take hits, throwing down a Cheryl every so often. It really is. It's such a weird card, Eldegoss, because for a long time, it was a one-of in a lot of decks just for happy match. Just getting that supporter back, grabbing a boss's orders in the late game to take your final prizes, things of that nature. But now Sander's come along and gone, well, it could actually be the engine of its very own deck if we wanted it to be. And now it's a legitimate attacker, float up doing 30 damage a turn because of double turbo energy.
And that's what's unlocked this card, really, for Sander. As soon as he saw that double turbo energy, he was rubbing his hands. He knew that this is a new way to go infinite. He was someone that really made Lusamine a really popular engine and was the backbone of many of his control decks. And now he's got it in a new form, which is this Eldegoss V. And we are seeing a capture energy now from Sander. He's bird keepered into this Jirachi again, just digging as deep as possible into this deck. I don't think he's got a way to actively search out this Memory Capsule Jolteon combo, and he's not been able to hit it just yet, which is a little bit awkward because Niels is getting a little bit of value accrued here with his quick shooting Inteleon, but as I say that, he has found it because not been able to see it in his hand as he's playing his cards literally close to his chest. But he might be able to simply retreat here with the Jirachi and value it a little bit less than this Snorlax on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's awkward because, all he's really doing is just throwing up prizes that he knows Niels is going to take because it's just about establishing that loop. And it doesn't really matter how many prizes Niels takes. We should confirm, the win condition that Sander's going for here is if your opponent is unable to draw a card at the beginning of their turn, you win the game. Decking out, we often refer to it as. And that's what Sander's going for here. Take some early prizes, I don't care, because I am going to deck you out. And, you've got that Eldegoss. You can recover stuff. You can keep your deck full for longer than your opponent can. And at the end of the day, that's all you're actually going to need. And that's going to, you've got Roseanne's backup. That will recover some cards. Well, if you loop Roseanne's backup, you just won't deck out.
Yeah, and quick shooting is shut off by the Jolteon. And actually, Niels showed us the two cards he was getting from Starbirth. That was information that Sander didn't need to see. But feeling a little bit generous here. But the boss's order is obviously a clear choice here. So we can see a Trinity Nova so that Niels can get access back to that Inteleon. I think it's going to be a big deal for him to try and sneak some extra damage in here and there.
No, absolutely. That could be the difference. We see the KO on the Jolteon. It's not that you can't boss's orders. You just can't use boss's orders on a Jolteon, on an Umbreon when it's got the tool attached. And right now, the format has evolved to the point where people just aren't really playing Tool Scrapper.
No.
All Niels needs here is one Tool Scrapper. Your Tool Scrapper,
change a lot.
Boss's orders, get them both from that V-Star power, KO that Umbreon, and then it's 4 single prizes, and they are absolutely in play.
Yeah.
But now, unfortunately, there's 3 more single prizes out. Niels is going to need to take 1 more KO, and it's just not a KO that's coming. And a lot of players have been cutting that Tool Scrapper lately, making room in their deck. I mean, at what point do people turn around and go, maybe we bring it back?
Probably now, after seeing this, to be honest. Also, Tool Jammer, not a bad card to play either. It can sort of be that, nullifier to the likes of Big Charm, to the likes of Choice Belt. So it can be that sort of middle ground between a Big Charm and a Belt at times. But in this case, not many people are choosing to play that Tool Jammer, typically in decks. We see the Peonia from Sander just to access a few of those prize cards. We are going to see the first VMAX coming into play, the Umbreon here, and he's going to be cherry-picking a Drizzile to the active position, gusting it up with that Umbreon VMAX ability, and simply a pass from Sander here.
Yeah, don't need to attack, don't want to attack, not going to attack. Of course, you're playing Umbreon because it's a bit of a sponge with that tool, but you could do the same kind of thing with Espeon. One of the things that makes Umbreon so special is partly the Darkness type you can attack and KO Mew, but also that Dark Signal ability is a great ability.
Especially for a control deck.
Control decks love gusting.
Yeah, exactly. It's their favorite thing. And it means that they get to play supporters that aren't boss's orders, like keep digging into the deck and play other luxury cards here and there, which is just fantastic all round. And as you said, another reason is the Umbreon has pretty much non-existent weakness right now in the format at the very least. So yeah, very helpful to have that right now.
Umbreon's got a lot going for it. Basically, non-existent weakness, brilliant ability, hits weakness on Mew. You could make this deck with Espeon, but it would lose so much because Umbreon's got the typing, the weakness, and the ability. It's a lot in one go.
Yeah, absolutely. Niels did pick up that scoop up net from the previous turn. Sander might just be trying to make him play the scoop up net to pick up the Drizzle from the active position. That's why there was a gusting play. And it actually denies the Jirachi getting KO'd by a couple of quick shootings here. So very intelligent use of that Umbreon VMAX at the opportune moment. And that was again because Niels actually showed him the scoop up net from the start, which is a little bit awkward now. But at least he can fire off a quick shooting and chooses not to, simply attacks. Was this a... Oh, no, here we go. So we are seeing quick shooting to the active as well as damage coming into the active. So I think this is one of those situations where we're up here with caster vision. We know exactly what Sander is going for in his deck list. Niels doesn't just yet. He doesn't know that this is actually going to be an archetype that tries to get the next VMAX into the active position this turn, sponges once again, and then we're going to see the heal of both of them as this Tower of Darkness is starting to accrue a lot of great value for Sander.
We haven't seen Eldegoss yet. You know, it's weird that the real kind of star of the deck, the real engine of the deck is played as a one-off, but then we got Peonia to grab it out of the prizes. It's, you know, it's going to be all good. But Sander hasn't shown that to Niels yet, which means that Niels probably isn't expecting an Eldegoss. Why would you be expect? Well, I suppose because you've watched him in Liverpool, but outside of that, you're probably not expecting an Eldegoss loop. So it is a really interesting one here.
You need to follow Sander on Twitter. He's talked about this deck before.
Oh, I have read his write-ups about the deck from Liverpool. Don't you worry, Joe. I read them.
This man loves an essay about every single reason why every one of these one-offs are played, and showing it to perfection again now. Sander going to be bird keeping away that damaged Umbreon, so it essentially can't be touched by Niels now. And we are going to see a Quick Ball, getting rid of an additional Snorlax. These are all cards just to help accrue more in the early game that can simply be thinned out of the deck now. And he may just be going for another Pitcher Pukumuku here. It's a great option to just go one card deeper into the deck. There we go again. He's also got that Dreamy Revelation. And he's basically trying to use this Eldegoss when you're at that point where you have no other cards in the deck. It's like using a Rangaroo. You get back into those 3 cards that you wanted in the first place. And that's where we're getting to now. I don't think Sander's deck is too thick at all. We're getting to that range where there's not many cards remaining. And that's going to be great news for him. As we see, I believe an air balloon has made it to the hand. So we can see retreat into the other VMAX here to once again sponge a turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's just find that Cheryl. But like you say, the deck ends up so small. Because with Eldegoss, you don't want cards in the deck. You want supported cards in the discard pile. That's where that happy match ability comes in. Gets those cards out of the discard pile. So having a nice small deck that you can absolutely manage. Keep yourself right on the verge of decking out, but not quite. And then you'll be absolutely fine. It is surprising. I have not seen anybody else literally talking about Eldegoss in this way. And, you know, that's why I was so keen to read Sander's, you know, essays he wrote about this deck, because I want to learn like everyone else does.
Yeah, it's almost like it's one of those built different memes where you just think, like, man, he is really on a different plane right now. He is playing a different game than everyone else. And we also see the Sun and Moon badge come down onto a Snorlax as well. Sander might just be thinking that he's ahead in the Stadium War and he has the luxury to do this. And he's just going to simply pass over here with a air balloon now on his active. As the shopping center does get bounced. It's not the end of the story, because again, Roseanne's backup is that all-star supporter that can allow him to end up winning the Stadium War, which is no bad thing for him. And we are going to see, just making sure the damage is correct on that Umbreon over there. I believe it's an extra quick shooting coming in. And Niels is going to receive the bad news in a turn's time, by the looks of things, as he could easily just be attached retreating for another bit of damage here.
Yeah, we've got 22 damage counters on there. That means we're needing...
Sobble's got to go into play, not the discard pile right there. It's a retreat, not quite a knockout. There we go.
There we go.
Not into the hand either. It needs to be on the bench.
Onto the fit. There we go.
Sander's paying attention.
But, you know, it was another 90 damage, I think? No, it's not. It's another 70 damage.
Yeah, it's miles away, essentially, because there's going to be a Cheryl.
5 quick shootings. There we go. 5 quick shootings. And there is no way he's going to get to 5 quick shootings. That is not happening.
There's Cheryl already at the top of Sander's hand, and that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. So, yeah, it looks pretty good. So Sander can undo a ton of this damage. I really would have liked Niels to be using these quick shootings on the Jirachi. He'll actually see exactly why in a moment's time. There's going to be the Cheryl on both of these Umbreons. You want to be spreading your damage as much as possible to make the most of quick shooting, because that's really the only thing stopping Sander from having like a complete lock on this game.
Absolutely. But the problem is, sooner or later, you've got to take down one of those Umbreon. And that's where I think the difficulty comes in for Niels here. One of those Umbreon has got to go down because, you know, Sander is not going to bench another single prize Pokemon. He's going to bench Eldegoss and immediately bring it back to hand. So there's only 3 prizes worth of, non-Umbreon out there rather than the 4 Niels needs. And we see Cheryl coming down there healing a huge amount of damage.
I would have loved to have seen a face cam there.
I was just about to say, it would have been very interesting to see Niels' reaction to that. It's just, I put so much work in. And when you're thinking, like, I'm on the verge of winning this game. I've done a lot here. But then again, you've got to think Sander's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
It's never going to be that simple.
Sander just waggling the finger, basically, and saying, aha, here is my win condition. It's 35 minutes in, and now you've seen my win condition. 25 minutes in, I should say. Yeah. And it's just going to be a simple attack from the Arceus. And Sander now, he's going to go for a Bird Keeper play, most likely, as long as he has enough cards remaining in his deck. And he can actually start weaving in an attack this turn with the Eldegoss to make sure that he doesn't deck out. And then he'll float up into his other Umbreon. This is the combo that we're going to be seeing here.
Absolutely. We do have an air balloon on the Umbreon on the bench, though.
Yeah, but it has no damage right now, so you leave it in the active position where it's the next sponge, and the currently damaged Sun and Moon Badge Umbreon is safe. So that's how you remain safe the entire game. And it's actually better to have an air balloon on your second Umbreon, because then you can constantly pivot post Cheryl. So it's a no-brainer there.
Absolutely. So here we see the Jirachi coming in. We got that double turbo energy on the Eldegoss. Jirachi's got that air balloon, so the free retreat is there. And this is where we've been working up. It took a long time to get here, but 25 minutes in, now we're seeing the deck in all its glory. So Eldegoss just comes in with the energy, goes into your deck, and I wonder what he's going to draw next turn. And this, again, this is another way, as well as like Roseanne, you're not going to be decking out with Eldegoss, because Eldegoss goes back into the deck. So you've got 0 cards, Eldegoss goes back in, 2 cards next turn, and just round and round we go.
Yeah, and he's actually promoted the Jirachi here, just because he wants to sort of get out of play, I think. It's not really an issue for him that Niels takes an additional prize card here in any form. So he's just going to let that be the sacrificial lamb. It may even mean that he has access to extra air balloon later on in the game. So we are going to see the quick shooting plus the Zigzagoon here to take that KO. And Sander immediately then says, oh, fine, okay, I'll bring up the Umbreon that I was going to heal anyway. But it does force a Cheryl this turn.
Absolutely. And, Niels at this stage is just, he's going to attack every turn with Arceus and just hope. Hope that Sander misses something or makes a misplay or isn't able to get the combo rolling, needs 3 supporters in 2 turns, something like that, just something to slow down a little bit. Now, the Eldegoss does come down, and I think you've said it's kind of got to be Cheryl this turn. So
he's got Cheryl in hand, so he's picked up that Bird Keeper for the following turn. He will once again be able to get some damage in. There goes all the damage on his own Pokemon. And yeah, we're in loop territory here. I am thinking that there's basically no win condition for Niels right now, but maybe he can piece something together here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of these games where, we're more than 25 minutes in. We're still in game 1. Niels is probably not going to win games 2 and 3. Not unless Sander has...
You think there's going to be a game 2 and 3? this is going long, my dude.
Well, that's kind of my point. So with Niels, a lot of the time it's like, well, let's just scoop and see what happens in game 2. But you can't just concede. You've got to carry on. At the end of the day, you're not a million miles away. If you can KO one of those Umbreon VMAX, you can get the win. If Sander makes a misplay, if Sander needs just a few too many things, if they don't have the Cheryl for some reason, if anything happens to disrupt this loop, it's probably all it's going to take, because Sander he's flying very close to the sun here. It is you hit one Umbreon, then you hit the other Umbreon, then I heal, and round we go.
Yep, absolutely. And we are seeing now Sander speeding up. He knows exactly what he's doing. During Niels' turn, he's planned out exactly what he's doing already, and he goes straight into that Umbreon, trying to get as much damage as possible. Sander knows that he's in the loop now. Nothing will change the fact that he's in this loop until he gets hit with like a Marnie or something like that to disrupt him. But he's happy just turn by turn going as quickly as possible, getting actually damage into play so that he can win a prize race. Who knew?
Yeah, it's always nice in that regard, but yeah, I mean, it really is a very inventive deck. This Umbreon VMAX, I'll be honest with you, this was not on my list.
Oh, no.
I did not think I was going to...
I knew Sander was going to bring a deck. I didn't know it was going to be this deck, right? And yeah, and for Niels, it's actually like not disadvantageous to simply carry on in the game and continue, because the clock may be on his side in terms of maybe he can't win this game, maybe he can extend the game to maybe like 10 minutes remaining, something like that, and then he can like steal a quick win just because Sander doesn't have good early game cards and can't draw in the opening. So that's going to be his line of play here, as we are going to see the Eldegoss get shuffled in. Now it is a 3-card deck, but one of them is the Pukamuku, I believe, so it's still a perfect deck as long as you draw in the right order here.
Yeah,
he has the Bird Keeper anyway for next turn.
I mean, that is really what you're hoping for against Sander. You know, Sander has taken a loss and a draw this tournament, so it's not some unassailable deck. It's, you know, it's not perfect, it's awkward. There are games where you're going to have a bad start and your opponent can overrun you, or you're going to have bad prizes, or, you know, if Eldegoss is prized and you don't draw it off your Peonia, that's awkward.
Yep, and we do see the boss's orders from Niels trying to change the loop. This is where it could be slightly more awkward for Sander if he doesn't already have Cheryl in his hand, which I believe he already has access via the Tower of Darkness, so there's not going to be a problem for him at all. It means that it's not a Bird Keeper turn, it's simply a Cheryl turn, and then back into the Eldegoss we go, thanks to the air balloon. It's going to be another 30 damage. It's a huge play.
Absolutely it is.
And it's one boss less for Niels in his deck, and you can see through the shadow, you can't see his facial expression, but you can really tell what's going on here. It's head on hands, trying to figure out a way to impact the game, but no, it looks like it's going to be a concession here. 20 minutes remaining on the clock. That might give you just enough time to win a game 2 here. So we'll see how things go. It looks like the win conditions ran out for Niels as Sander was able to get into a perfect lock.
Absolutely, and I do think the concession here is a good call because like it's not a great plan, right? It's not your primary plan. But sometimes, when your opponent's playing an awkward deck especially, they have bad starts.
Yep.
And that's what Niels is betting on. There isn't going to be a game 3. The only possible game 3 here is super quick win.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Only way. You know, essentially either Niels wins a quick game and it's a draw, Niels wins 2 quick games and actually manages to win.
Crazy. Yeah.
Or Sander just kind of carries on doing his thing.
Yeah.
There's still a chance. You've got to think that Sander is absolutely in the driver's seat here. We saw in that game, there was never really any worry. There was never any trouble. There was never any situation where I was like, oh, Sander's in trouble here. The deck just clicked.
Yeah, but Sander did get to go first and wasn't really put under much pressure. There wasn't an Arceus for a good number of turns, and I think that's what Niels has really got to bank on. Try and take advantage of the awkward starts that Sander's deck sometimes can have. You can draw things in the wrong order. You don't play many traditional draw supporters in the first place, so you can end up with some really wacky hands at times with Sander's deck. So you just have to try and put the pressure on as quickly as possible and start munching prizes and make it awkward for Sander.
No, absolutely. That's all you can do. It's early game pressure, and these Arceus decks, you know, turn 1, not great, but you can have, if you get a good start, that turn 2, you can be doing 200 damage, getting big KOs, and all it takes is Sander to, you know, stumble for a turn or 2, and that is at least a draw.
Yeah.
There's no way Sander does that again. There literally isn't time for Sander to do that again. Not really, not to play like he did in the previous game. It took half an hour.
He's playing basically towards the 1-0 victory being his victory, right? That's essentially what he's saying here, because his deck takes 50 minutes just for one game, basically. If we had continued onwards in this vein and it wasn't scooped up by Niels, it would have carried on for the remaining time, I think.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of, you know, I think Sander's probably ahead of the pack in the room for 1-0 victories.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Especially because, as you saw, Niels didn't really know why he was losing until about 25 minutes in. See a couple interesting one-offs. Ooh, the memory capsule's an awkward one to get into the prize cards, as is the shopping center at times. Sander used that to great effect. Even though it was just one turn of usage, it allows him to have double Sun and Moon badge on both of his Umbreon until the time comes where you can pick one back up and turn it into an air balloon for the perfect combo that we saw. So we'll see how he navigates that. It's something, of course, he is pretty accustomed to. And Niels playing at rapid pace. He's got double Sobble down, attachment to Arceus, and go Sander.
Yeah, we actually missed a whole turn there somehow.
That happened.
In about 2 seconds, Niels was like,
he gets the picture, right?
Yeah.
He knows what he has to do here.
Do Sobble, Arceus, Energy, go.
Yeah, and that's all you need. That's actually the ideal turn for Arceus in most situations. You don't typically have too many actions, but you got to go like the clappers if you're going to try and win a game here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it is going to be play fast, try and take KOs. You know, if you find... Sander probably isn't going to bench an Umbreon without a badge on.
Absolutely not, yeah.
But then that means that Sander's got to draw into an Umbreon and a badge at the same time. And this isn't one of those decks playing Arceus V-Star, playing Inteleon. Sander isn't searching out the perfect cards, but you're hoping, well, unless you get Starly, which
That's what he can.
would be awesome. But you're using Pyukumuku, you're using Snorlax, you're trying to draw those cards. So, I mean, honestly, if you want to get that early game, that Starly, which is not prized this game, that could be a play.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll see if Sander actually has anything like that Bird Keeper in his hand. It could be something that he goes for early game. It's actually when Starly's kind of at its best, its full potential, when you can get that early alongside a double turbo energy, I should say, so that you actually can use that Keen Eye attack to tutor any two cards. We are seeing a typical first turn search here from Sander. Once again, you always have to give him his moment, give him his time to look for those prizes. Whenever it's your first search, you've got to be a little bit more liberal than the little 15 seconds or whatever it is that you have, as we are going to see a Jirachi and a Capture Energy, so he's actually got a really good start.
Yeah, this is not bad at all. Snorlax draws cards, Jirachi draws cards, Capture Energy gets you whatever basic it is you actually want. You know, it's another Snorlax. I think if he had Bird Keeper in hand, this might be the time to go Starly, but I don't think he does.
Looks like he may be thinking about thinning with an Ultra Ball here. He knows that he has, he's prized his memory capsule, so he's just going to sacrifice the Jolteon here. It only really stayed in play for one turn regardless against Niels, so it wasn't really like a big deal. I believe it means that he can go down to a 0-card hand here and Gorman dies up for 7, because I think his last card in hand is just an Eevee.
Yeah, that's pretty gosh darn nice. So this is a good play. You know, it's nice to be able to draw lots of cards. Niels is obviously very happy that, you know, hand went straight to the discard. Oh, Jolteon's gone. That's quite nice. Oh, here is a Starly though.
Something else to read, perhaps, for Niels. We'll see how this goes, because I don't think it was accessed or used in the first game. But it may mean that there's actually a Bird Keeper potentially in his hand. I thought I spied an Eevee, but even then, it's just another Pokemon that Sander can put into play. If anything is like gusted up or knocked out, he can, if he's able to draw into Double Turbo, he can have that Keen Eye for the following turn.
No, absolutely. It's always a nice play. And, you know, Double Turbo doing less damage doesn't matter if you're doing no damage to begin with.
No
use
downside.
it for free with Bird Keeper, use it with Double Turbo. Either way, it's a nice play. And it's not a card that gets a huge amount of love because it's a very weak, very low HP, you know, basic, and the evolutions are not used a lot. And there we go. I'm proud to say I did remember that Starly.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, that's awesome. And it's actually possibly going to be on show here. And the Gorman is just going to get a fresh 7 cards. Not too shabby for Sander.
No, not at all. Nice full bench. Lots of 7 cards. You know, the Eevee's at the bench, that's probably just going to be sacrificed in a minute because it's not doing much with Jolteon in the discard.
Not a huge amount, no. And Niels is going to go ahead and Drizzle for that scoop up net straight away, gets it out of the active, gives him another deal here so that he can get something like Evolution Incense to get into his V-Star to start swinging, because right now Power Edge isn't doing enough. There's a -20 on that Double Turbo Energy that's actually relevant at the moment.
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, the pace of play is going to be really important here. There is a window. There's no Umbreon down. You know, Sander is not doing, the loop isn't out right now. So there is a situation where, you know, Niels just attacks, and just hopes, crosses his fingers, you know, takes advantage. If an Umbreon for any reason does hit the field without a badge, then you can jump on it with a boss's orders. Unlikely, but you never know. And just try and take a prize every turn. What he doesn't want to do is end up taking 5 prizes, running out of time, because, you know, in a best-of-3 situation like this, games have to complete. Doesn't matter how close you are, if neither player has achieved a win condition, the game doesn't count.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see the Avery hit the discard pile. Sander just having a double check there to see that was in fact the case. And we are going to see one more Shady Dealings here. There still is a supporter available. Could go for a Marnie play potentially just to try and disrupt the big Gorman dies for 7 cards. That could be one of his better routes here.
Absolutely. That might be quite nice.
Especially if you're choosing not to Avery. It feels like you're picking another supporter this turn.
Yeah, I mean, but the Avery didn't really do much last turn. You know, looking at it now...
And it won't at the moment either.
No, it's just going to get rid of the Eevee.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
Boss's orders, actually. And this is maybe a situation where Niels doesn't know that there's just one Jolteon. This is just, I don't know Sander's deck list at all. This is just expecting that there's at least a way to recover Jolteon. So we are going to see a KO here on that Eevee. First prize down, and Sander basically just played that down last turn as somewhat of like a bait, but also so that he could just draw an extra card from Gorman dies, and it's worked out wonders for him here.
Yeah, it's worked out really nicely. I mean, you've got to be giving up some prizes in the early game while you get going. It might as well be an Eevee that is going to contribute absolutely nothing to the rest of the game. I mean, as sad as it is, that was Eevee's role this game.
He's done his job.
He's done his job.
That's value right there. I think you would actually be happy with the performance of Eevee in this game, especially because you've discarded the Jolteon early. And we see an Umbreon, so there's no doubt we're also probably going to see a Sun and Moon badge here. And we are seeing another Quick Ball at the same time. Another Eevee bites the dust. I think he's just given up on the Jolteon game plan. For now, at least. It could be something he works in later on in the game. But for now, just scouting more cards out of his deck. I do know that Sander has the Capture Energy in hand, so this could just be a Picture Pyukumuku for an additional card here. Or just trying to deck thin another basic out of his deck.
No, it's a good point. What Sander's doing here is setting up the loop. We've got the Umbreon, now we need the badge, then we need another Umbreon, then we need another badge, or an air balloon, to be honest, that would work.
Yep.
And then we just need the Eldegoss. And actually, he doesn't have enough bench space right now, so Niels is going to have to do him a favor and KO another Pokemon.
It's not really a favor, though, when he actually needs to win a game. He's a game down. He absolutely has to take KOs, and Sander is fully aware of that. Sander is going to be holding on to this Capture Energy. No, he is going to commit one. He may already have another Sun and Moon badge in his hand even. That would be absolutely incredible. If not, you just go ahead and grab another basic out of the deck and throw it down. Like, you know that Niels is going to have to take prize cards, so why not throw down just like another Snorlax, for example, and just thin out your deck?
Yeah, that would always be quite nice. And the problem is, Niels has seen this deck now. He saw game one, he saw how it went, and it started off slow. And it's kind of like that realization as you go through the game, like, that's on a Moon badge kind of annoying. Oh, wait, you can Cheryl two of them at the same time. You're looping with Eldegoss, but now he knows what to expect. And he's just seeing it come together. And it's kind of a horrible feeling sometimes when you just can't stop it. You know your opponent has got this strategy, which, when it works, you cannot beat. So you know your only real chance is to outspeed them or outduel them in that way. And the closer your opponent gets to actually pulling off that combo, the more it's kind of... And you've got to wonder, would Niels scoop early? Would it get to a point where he's just like, you know what? Tried it game one, didn't work. You ever do that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, in a way. And we are going to see another Ultra Ball here from Sander. He's got his Marnie down. He's Dreamy Revelation. He's also able to pay retreat with that Capture Energy he attached this turn, and Gorman dies once again. Looks like he's picking up the VMAX for next turn, just to be, again, a bit of a nuisance, bring something else into that active position so he can start doing the sponging play. We already see the Ultra Ball putting the Cheryl in the discard pile. It just means that he has even more access to that card when he needs it with Float Up at any point. And he knows that right now the Umbreon is completely untouchable with that Sun and Moon badge attached. So he's completely free to do this, discard a few cards from his hand and get a bit of extra value from that Snorlax once again.
Absolutely. And we've got to watch the clock at this stage, because the closer we get to the end, Sander doesn't really care what happens this game as long as Niels doesn't take 6 prizes. That is the route to victory for Sander. So all we need here is just, to get to a point where it's no longer possible to take 6 prizes in the remaining time. And would you believe it, we've got 4 single prize Pokemon out, and Niels has 5 prizes left to take. So once again, an Umbreon has to be defeated here in order for Niels to win. And with that Sun and Moon badge, your job is just 10 times more difficult. 1 Tool Scrapper, that would be all it would take to turn this game around. But that's a moot point when you're not actually playing it.
How brave is Sander to say that I lose to 1 Tool Scrapper?
I know,
or 1
right?
Tool Jammer. And man, he is out here doing such great work. And he's able to kickstart his turn with that Tower of Darkness. It wasn't bounced by Niels. He simply announced an attack. He drew for turn, announced an attack to move this game along. He knows that Sander has a million actions when he wants to. And it's completely fair play, This is not time stalling or anything like that. He's just playing the game. He's digging deeper into his deck, and you can't question him for that at all as he is developing his board state. We're going to see a quick pitch from a Pyukumuku here for an additional card before he makes any other decisions. He draws into that other Cheryl in his hand now. He has a VMAX available to him. We saw him grab that with Ultra Ball last turn. But honestly, doesn't really need to do all that much. He's got a Dreamy Revelation available to him as well to go that little bit deeper. Flannery could be a bit of a headache, and that could be something. No, he's going for Boss's Orders to hand and keeping Flannery on top. So surprising to see that a little bit. Maybe it helps you out against an opposing Marnie or something like that to have it on top of the deck instead. But we are going to see the Peonia here. Sander is going to look at 3 of his prize cards and try and access some of those. I know that the shopping centre is one that I'm sure he's eager to grab. It allows him to get that second Umbreon down safely, and he was able to hit that 50-50.
No, that's really, really nice. Get it down, get the right tool on it, give it a bit of protection, swap it for an air balloon if you can. It's very, very nice way to go about doing things. It's not a supporter card, excuse me, a stadium card we see very often, but it is one that can, really help. It's continuing that theme of the weekend, which is one-off cards. Cards that don't see a huge amount of play, but just play them as a one-off in this deck. You'll use it once or twice here or there, but that is all it's actually going to take for it to really kind of earn its space in the deck. So getting that out was quite nice. The prizes that are left really aren't bad. He's got enough Umbreon. That memory capsule, the time has passed for that.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Poor old Snorlax goes down. It's not going to be doing much more for the rest of the game. Tower of Darkness he plays as a 4-off, so that's kind of irrelevant. And double turbo energy, apparently he's got enough.
He plays three copies of those, so happy enough to see that go into the prize cards with no panic whatsoever. And the shopping centre, like we said, it just allows him to get that second Umbreon down safely alongside a Sun and Moon badge, and then you replace it later down the line. So this Pioneer grabbing that stadium is just a play for the future, and that's pretty much what the deck is all about.
Yeah, I'll do this now. We'll wait 5 minutes. In 5 to 10 minutes time, it's going to be beautiful.
Trust me, that's going to be great. This card is exactly what I need, just for a little while longer. There's a bit of a discussion here between the players, but I don't think there's been anything out of line. This is the first supporter of the turn. Sunder has many actions still remaining. There's an Ultra Ball that he can potentially play here if he... does he have a Sun and Moon badge in hand? I believe it's his second card in hand, so he could start developing that second Umbreon V now, just to get it in play. He could also thin some additional cards and actually get some Gourmandized value here.
Absolutely. One Snorlax might have gone into prizes, but there's still one sitting there ready to go. It really is at this stage, it's an interesting thing with these kind of decks where it really is just, I'm buying time, I'm setting up. Whereas with Mew, it's taking prizes, forcing your opponent to react to those prizes, and then if you get KO'd, there's another Pokemon you need. Here, it's really quite straightforward of, I'm going to get to a stage with 2 Umbreon, and one's going to have a Sun and Moon badge, one's probably going to have an Air Balloon. My deck is just going to be Eldegoss and Double Turbo Energy. And then from there, I am going to loop and I'm going to win. And all this is doing here is just thinning out the deck and just trying to get to that stage of the game. So, we're going to see things like Double Turbo Energy being put in the prizes because you only need one.
Yeah, that's all you need. You can access it over and over and over again, so no drama whatsoever here. As I'm not sure if there's a judge ruling going on or something like that, because it seems like both players have stopped play. So we'll get confirmation of that momentarily, but I couldn't see anything out of place right now. And Sanders just used a Pioneer, and he still has a couple actions remaining in the turn, so I shouldn't think there's anything too much afoot here. We'll get confirmation of that for you.
Yeah, it turns out we are waiting for a judge ruling. Somebody's going to come over and look at something that's happening in the game. We're not 100% sure of what it is at the moment. We will let you know when we do. But these things do happen, especially when you've got these complicated decks, and it can be really awkward sometimes. It's easy to play mistakes when you don't actually know. You don't have that perfect knowledge of the deck, and Niels certainly does not always know what's going on with the deck. I must confess, I didn't see anything untoward there, so it must have been something we missed.
Possibly like a pace of play or something like that, but I'm not really too certain about that. I think everything has been at a decent pace, and Sander just simply has a large hand size. You're just making decisions because you actually have so many options available to you. I don't think there's anything untoward here.
Yeah, we have received word they are waiting for the head judge to come and give a ruling.
Sure.
So something is happening. We're just not 100% sure what. So, looking at Neil's side of the board here, is it really just attacking every turn and crossing your fingers that there is an opening to try and get an Umbreon, or maybe Sander accidentally benches the wrong Pokemon? It's not really a good win condition, right?
No.
It's not what you're aiming for. Fingers crossed my opponent makes a whoopsie, but is there anything else?
I mean, no, the ball's completely in Sander's court. I think he's in complete control of this game once again. He was essentially going through the motions. He could safely develop a second Umbreon here to start executing the full end game of the plan. And I do think there's going to be a quick discussion here with the judges as we sort this out and make sure that both players are satisfied and happy with the situation going on here.
No, absolutely. Apparently there is an appeal being made to a ruling, but I'm not entirely sure which ruling is being appealed.
Everything seems in order here. It may have been the order of prizes from the Pioneer or something like that, because he went all from one side rather than like the first three or something like that. But we're just making sure everything's okay here. I'm sure we can carry on with the game. Nothing has gone wrong with the game state, so it's repairable no matter what the case here.
Absolutely.
The game will conclude. And it does mean there will be a time extension as well. You can see that clock ticking down, but any time taken up by judge rulings, normally you get bought back by the judges for you.
Absolutely. And one thing we should mention, we talk a lot. Generally speaking, players take their prizes bottom, middle, top. That's generally the way they do it. But there is no rule. Now, sometimes it looks a little bit weird when, we've all seen those games where players decide to take their prizes in a jaunty manner. Hey, let's start in the middle.
And feeling like number 3, yeah.
And it happens to be the perfect card. And then it's always like, whoa. But really, most players are just creatures of habit. And we take from the bottom because, I don't know, that's what people do. That's what everyone does. So that's what we do.
Yeah, they're nearest, right? So we're lazy at the end of the day. But yeah, it's one of those things. And Pioneer, of course, doesn't say, like, choose the bottom 3 prize cards. It's just whatever you want, and there shouldn't be any issue there. So the judges are just discussing and making sure that everyone's going to be okay here as we continue on with this game. But as it stands right now, the clock is still ticking down on Niels, who doesn't have much of a win condition. And I think it's obvious to say that Sander has built his deck with Arceus Inteleon in mind.
Oh, of course.
One of the most popular archetypes on the tables, and there's no doubt that he's had a solid game plan and has probably come up against it earlier on in the rounds. And you can see his deck working to perfection in that first game, where there was literally nothing that Niels could do to close out the win there. The damage output of the Arceus is just not high enough to deal with Umbreon VMAX. And that's not really a slight on Arceus V Star. That's pretty much nothing can one-hit KO VMAX Pokemon. We've seen that throughout the entire weekend, that unless you're hitting for weakness, VMAXs are normally tanking hits, and that's really what Sander's leaned into with his entire deck list.
No, absolutely. And it's so weird. Like, you look at Sander's deck and you're like, if anyone plays a Tool Scrapper, this could go really badly. And if anybody plays a Grass Pokemon, oh, this could go really badly.
We'll get confirmation of the ruling and if there is any time extension, but it looks like the game is going to be continuing here with that Ultra Ball. Sander is going to get rid of Boss's Orders and Tower of Darkness. I believe he'll be going for a second Umbreon V here because he has access to that second Sun and Moon badge already in play. So he's just going to continue with his turn. He can easily retreat into his Gormandai Snorlax and gain a few additional cards here as well. So hopefully everything's been resolved and we can continue with the conclusion of this game, where Sander is, again, putting the squeeze on here, and we'll see how things go.
And you may notice that the clock has gone back up to 2 minutes. We have now had confirmation there was a warning issue to Sander for slow play. There was a 2-minute time extension to make up for that. But it really, unfortunately, does not look like that is going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to see the air balloon for the retreat now into that Snorlax, and he can Gormandise up for a huge hand. I think he played down the majority of his entire hand there, actually, just 3 cards remaining. So the Snorlax will continue to accumulate some value here. And we also saw the VMAX come down to bring up that little Sobble and force at least one action out of Niels, who is playing at a rapid pace.
Yeah, he's going to have to do something.
Yep, goes down to 3 prize cards remaining. And it is back to Sander now to see what he can do. He's established his first VMAX. His second VMAX is on the board. Oh, sorry, his second V is on the board. It's down to him to find his next VMAX and do the little shopping center shenanigan where you pick up the Sun and Moon badge and replace it for an air balloon. And then he's in the loop, as we are going to see a pitch from Pyukumuku here to draw an additional card and put the Pyukumuku on the bottom. You can also see a Tower of Darkness. The same old story for Sander, really. He's getting deeper and deeper into that deck. That is his entire MO here. And looks like he's got things like the Eldegoss ready to rumble in hand. He's already got Cheryl in hand. You could quite easily see a retreat this turn into that VMAX, because he's almost ready to go. He could also even just attach a double turbo energy if he's feeling confident, and then he can go for a Keen Eye just to get 2 cards out of the deck. He's pretty much got everything he needs already in hand, but he just wants to be 2 cards deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's so awkward because you're sitting there as Niels and you're looking at this and you're going, right, what can I do? And the reality is nothing.
Yeah.
Sander has got this loop going. The Umbreon are down. The shopping center is going to come out and get, you know, the optimal tool on there. The Eldegoss is coming down. We're going to have that energy. And the reality of the situation is that Niels has, you know, put up a good fight, done everything they can. But like you said, you know, Sander's deck is a very awkward, weird deck, and it is built to beat the best decks. So maybe Sander's going to be surprised by a random Leafeon VMAX. Or, maybe it's not prepared for that Sylveon deck. But Arceus, Mew, those are not going to surprise Sander. He is going to know how to beat those decks. And honestly, when you're playing an unusual deck like this, you are sitting down going, come on, Mew or Arceus.
Yeah, and we are seeing a happy match for a second Pioneer of the game, so he's now had access to all 6 of his prize cards, which is typically a difficult thing to do for a deck that doesn't take any prizes. And we are seeing the Memory Capsule finding its way back into those prize cards, as well as another Snorlax and a Capture Energy. So we are going to be seeing a float up this turn, most likely into a Umbreon VMAX here. I believe there's a Dreamy Revelation going on now that Sander is debating. And we are going to simply see a Quick Ball. We can see another pitch of Pukumuku for an additional card deeper here.
No, I think I'm thinking about that time extension. There's an extra 2 minutes. That's not relevant.
Faded.
There's nowhere near. And I did have confirmation. I did ask backstage earlier on. The timer we've got on the screen is dead on with the timer.
Oh, yeah.
It is absolutely perfect. So time has now been called. And the thing is, Niels has got 2 more turns. He would have to KO an Umbreon VMAX. That is the only route to victory. He would have to do it in 2 turns. And it's not active, and it can't be gusted.
Yeah.
So I think at this stage it has become actually impossible for Niels to win this game.
It certainly feels like it. We'll get confirmation of turns momentarily because we must have hit that mark here. But Niels, it looks like he's actually assessing his hand and going through the motions that little bit more than just simply announcing attacks as quickly as possible. So that could be an indicator that the game has gone 2 turns already. So we'll get confirmation of that. We are going to see a Power Pad quickly to grab Boss's Orders, putting that back into the deck. Then we're going to see the V-Star Power going ahead, grabbing Boss's Orders, just so that Niels can target the Jirachi instead. That's the only valid target. And now he reveals that Boss's Orders once again. And he is keeping the other card secret this time from the start. But he's learned from that first game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you don't want to give your opponent information they don't need. The nature of Arceus is that you can go and get any 2 cards. So you need to show your opponent that you have taken 2 cards. You don't need to show them what they are. Whereas something like Sylveon we saw earlier, because you can only grab an item card, you have to show your opponent what you got to confirm that it was, in fact, an item card that you went and got. So we do see Starly in the active here. We see a bit of draw, I think, going on with Tower of Darkness here. We've got Pitch of Pukumuku being pitched and drawing an extra card there. But, the game is cracking on quite nicely. But I do think we've kind of reached that point now where it's going through the motions. I do believe Sander was turn 0, assuming the clock is correct, which we've been told previously it is. So I believe that makes this turn 2.
Yeah, this should be turn 2 by the looks of things. And Sander is just going to continue to go that a little bit deeper with the Zinnias here, discarding 2 cards and getting himself 3 cards here for the number of Pokemon in play for his opponent. And that's going to be a little bit of extra draw deeper into the deck. Again, he can quite happily sacrifice the Starly in the active because it doesn't change much in terms of the prize race and how many knockouts Niels needs to score. The end of the day here is that there's still 2 Umbreons to deal with, and that ain't happening anytime soon.
Oh, we might see Starly actually being used here. We see the double turbo energy, searching out any 2 cards you like here. Sneaky Starly coming out. This is quite nice. It's, really just making sure to guarantee, do I have the cards I need to make sure this lock really goes in properly? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think there's not too much that Niels can do in this instance to change the situation, as we imagine this is probably the last turn the 3rd turn here after time, as we are going to see the retreats and just the attack here from Starly. If not, that is going to be the very last turn coming onto Sander, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, either way, Niels has gone down to a single prize, but there's no 1 prize Pokemon. It's just Umbreon. And we know that Niels cannot KO Umbreon. So the game is still going on, so it must not have been Sander on turn 0, but regardless, all we're going to see here, in 2 turns' time, Niels will have done some damage to both of the Umbreon. Now, Sander still would do well to, try and get that shopping centre, which is in hand, and the air balloon, which is in hand.
He's had it many turns ago.
He's using it this turn.
Yeah, and when he's doing it to the bench, it means he's happy enough just to pass here.
Yeah, and this is going to be it. Niels can attack in, do some damage. it really doesn't matter. It's kind of irrelevant. Niels is going to do some damage to some Umbreon, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be good enough.
Going to see the replacement of that shopping center here, and we are going to see the training court getting out the, well, just replacing the shopping center by the looks of things, not even wanting to get the energy back from the discard pile, simply just going to announce an attack and get some damage onto this Umbreon VMAX, but this could easily be one of the last turns of the game for sure here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the game is still going on. There are still turns being played, but realistically, there's just, and I know we keep going back to it, there's the Bird Keeper, there's the switch. So now Niels has one more turn where he's going to attack and not get himself any closer to winning the game. And then Sander is going to drop that Cheryl. And we know he's got the Cheryl. We know Cheryl's not in the prizes, and it's either in his hand or it's in a discard pile, and it's going to be grabbed with Eldegoss. And, you know, it really is nice having that option. Playing Eldegoss, Bird Keeper, or Cheryl,
Yep.
but it's still nice to have the option.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Sana just making sure that he's not putting himself into a precarious situation. But as we saw, his loop has pretty much been established here. We are going to see the double turbo get attached to the Eldegoss V, and he can do that same old thing where you freely retreat and float up back into the deck, get that little bit of 30 damage, which isn't as important as making sure that you don't deck yourself out.
Absolutely. You know, not decking out is generally pretty good. That would be a way to lose the game for Sander here. So, you know, once again, and it's so frustrating. If it wasn't for that Sun and Moon badge, it would just be a quick boss's orders, KO the Umbreon, and you win. Unfortunately, if it wasn't for Sun and Moon badge, Sander wouldn't be playing Umbreon. It wouldn't be a good deck. So, you know, that Sun and Moon badge, it's a card that so many people over the past few months have just kind of, well, I mean, I think you referred to it as everyone's got it in their bulk.
Yeah.
It's a card that people have just not taken seriously. Nobody really wanted that card. You know, Umbreon sees a bit of play in single strike decks, mostly for that gusting ability. It's a really good card, but it's not seeing play like this. And, you know, the idea of Umbreon as a damage sponge, it's honestly never occurred to me.
Yeah, it's brilliant, to be honest, as we are going to see the Bird Keeper from Sander drawing the remaining cards in his deck so he can once again drop that Eldegoss, get that double turbo energy attached. You can also happy match back a supporter card, no doubt going to be a Bird Keeper or a Cheryl to make sure he has access to both. And once again, it's going to be a free retreat air balloon combination where you float up again for 30 damage. It is rinse and repeat for Sander. Both players are playing actually at fast speed now.
Yeah, both players are playing very fast. They know what's going on. And Niels at this stage is kind of desperation mode. It literally is just hoping your opponent makes a mistake. Because at this stage, the loop isn't going to be broken. It is, you know, it's a perfect loop at this stage. Sander is going to be able to draw all the cards he needs. He's going to be able to heal every 2 turns. He is going to be able to block Niels from actually getting that 2-hit KO. The lock is on. And at this stage, the only real potential outcomes here are Sander keeps going until Niels decks out, because we know with Eldegoss, Sander basically cannot deck out, or he makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Niels pounces on it and wins.
I think it's quite poetic that time is literally standing still during this game. I'm sure it's felt like that for times for Niels, who is simply drawing cards and dealing as much damage as possible. And we continue onwards as the Bird Keeper recycles the Eldegoss, who can float up, get back that Bird Keeper, reattach that double turbo energy, free retreat with the air balloon, and smack once again 430 damage, floating back up into the deck. You've heard it all before at this point, but the story ain't going to change.
No, and that is the thing. Like, these loop decks, I find these loop decks endlessly interesting. These control decks are brilliant. You know, setting up that perfect loop from which your opponent cannot escape. Watching it happen is an absolute thing of beauty. But then the loop is established, and at that point, it's like Groundhog Day. You're just watching the same thing happen over and over again. And, you know, Niels is trying to figure out what he can do to break the loop, and the answer is nothing. It is literally just hoping your opponent makes a mistake. But there's a reason why Sander played this. You know, one of the things I find very interesting, people are not copying Sander's deck.
No. And it's for an honest reason. It's that Sander is a madman. And he is very intelligent and will craft these decks almost entirely on theory because no one wants to play against him because it's such an awkward situation. And also, the more information you give to other people, the easier people can play those cards like Tool Scrapper and Tool Jammer and completely ruin a combination altogether. So he's basically testing these decks almost in secret and has come up with it completely on his own. And my goodness, is it working here.
Oh, absolutely. But think about Liverpool. Sander goes to Liverpool, takes this control, control deck, does extremely well, one of the top players at the event, and not only publishes the list, but publishes like a step-by-step, here's how I play the deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was beautiful, and it was really well written, and it was very detailed. And nobody went, at least as far as I'm aware, people didn't go, that's a really good deck, I've been given a how to play guide. People are just not copying his decks.
I mean, you can copy the deck list, but you can't copy his playstyle. You can't be as efficient and proficient as he is with control. He doesn't make a mistake, basically ever. And that's really remarkable. You must have some insane stamina to not miss a beat here. As we are getting confirmation now that we're finally in turns. I believe the clock may have been a longer extension than we had thought. But we are finally getting to the nitty-gritty here.
And it does seem like Niels now has scooped the game, decided there is absolutely no way I'm going to win this. It's been kind of known for a while, but it is now official. Xander is going to take the 1-0 victory.
Who could have seen that coming? I mean, and the crowd are applauding. It's one of those melancholic moments where everyone's like, boy, I would have hated to come up against